Steph.
And I'm Alex, and we're Tough Love, and today we're going to tell you about our new record, So Freaking Tight, and how we made it and how we came about, sort of cutting it up and sampling it, because it's a quite heavy sample-based record. This track actually started more as a DJ tool, which is how a lot of our records start, because we're predominantly DJs first and then producers, and it's sort of evolved over time and became a single. So because it's a DJ tool, it came from a heavy sample, and we kind of worked around the sample first. And what we tend to do in most of our records is start at the meat of the record, like the biggest part, and we work backwards. A lot of guys start sort of from the intro and work forwards, but we like to start at the meat and work backwards. So we'll show you how we start off. We normally start with our drum patterns first and then get into the sampling area afterwards.
We build our beats with audio files rather than through like Ultra Beat or processing like synths or anything, mainly because of the transition from, you know, when you go into another studio you need to go and mix and master down. The audio files are already in a Logic session, so it's a lot easier for people to just load it up. There's no issues, get straight to the point, and we can get really intricate into like tightening up the hats, tightening up the kicks, tightening up the like claps and everything. It's just our preference in the way we work.
I think the other important thing is, like, from when we started out, we've always liked our sound to be familiar, and that a lot of that comes from your drums, not just the movement but the actual drums you use. So like organisation is quite key for us. We do it probably kind of different to everyone else because we're not always together. We work on the move a lot, so we have all our files actually put in Dropbox, and we have like our Tough Love kicks, our Tough Love claps, our snares, and then we have our presets which we've worked on, you know, over numerous years, to get a sound that familiar for us when we put the presets on, and then we tweak them from there. So Steph will show you our kick.
Yeah, so our kick drum is just a generic bass kick drum. It is we run a transient shaper on top of it just to add an extra bit of tightness and a bit of boost. We'll play it through. So here's our kick. We usually put a lot of our sound packs together, so we find kicks, we find sounds that we like, we separate them and have our own specific Tough Love sample pack, so we know, like, we have our go-to sounds as well.
And because of that, normally you don't find we have to layer too much. Like, we're comfortable with how our kick sounds, and you find a lot of guys will have like a top kick and a bass kick, and we normally sort of have those patched together.
Yeah. So this is basically our kick sound. Yeah, there's not really much to it, to be honest. It's a transient shaper, as we said, just add an extra bit of punch, and then we put a Snare equalizer on it, take a little bit of the rumble off the bottom of it, and we try and add a little bit on the top so it has an extra punch through the mix. So with the kick we've turned up the attack, just add an extra bit of punch, and with minimal release so that it's a real snappy kick.
Sharp kick.
Yeah. So this is a clap that we've used throughout the record. It's quite hard, very sharp kind of clap with a lot of reverb on it. Again, we like our drums and stuff to be really punchy. We really want them to lead the track, and it's got like a typical garage sort of snare skip on it,
yeah,
that you get in a lot of our records. It's familiar with a lot of the early kind of 2000 garage sound.
So we have the verb like really wet on the clap because we like to fill the gap, and we have the skips pulled a lot tighter on the verb, so they really pull through the record a lot more.
Again, we've got the transient shaper on it just to give it that extra snap and boost. We actually use a 1973 equalizer basically because the high ends are really, really good on it, and it's very easy to use. The mids are really nice on it as well, and it just hits a frequency that we can't seem to get with a lot of the other EQs. Yeah, so basically we've upped the mids on it, and we've upped a bit of the top end on it, the high ends, just as for clarity, really. So we also have the small skip snare running around the clap. It's actually an actual snare. It's a lot tighter than the clap, and it doesn't have as much reverb on top because we like it, again, to punch through the record. It's a similar process, transient shaper. We use the Snare EQ again, as well as the 1973 equalizer. It does sound a bit random without the other sounds in there, but when the other sounds are in there, it actually works.
If you put the clap back in,
so we put a clap in,
and fill the gap, you'll see the.
So then we have the kick, the snare, and the clap as well.
Yeah. So with this record, we had a nice open hat, probably quite similar to something that come out of 909. Limited amount of verb on it, wet enough that it dies down before the next hat comes in, basically. And then again, we had a smaller, faster hat, like a shaker to move on underneath to keep the record moving. Because we found like a lot of our early work where we pulled those out, it just doesn't feel like it bounces enough. So we have those moving, and then in the gaps we have the skip claps or the skip snares, which you heard earlier on the record. So if I play it now.
We try and find sounds that are really crisp and clean already, so they don't really need much manipulation. They don't need a lot to them. This hat is really, really clean. It punches through again. It's quite sharp, and obviously with the other drums and the claps and the snares, everything has their own space and their own place in the record.
Again, with all of these, like organisation-wise, we've got them ready. They're always in our file and Dropbox. They're easy to go to. I think like a lot of guys always ask us like, how do you get your sounds, or where do you find them? Like, bank them. Once you find them, just bank them, because you will spend countless time going through trying to find them again, which we did. I mean, we're not, if we're honest, we're not the best at organisation, but when it comes to our drums, we know where they are, and
we know what we like.
Yeah, we know what we like, and when we get into our plugins later, exactly the same. We bank all our tops and all our leads that we like.
As Alex was saying earlier on, we've got a nice shaker. It's kind of like a mixed shaker and a hat together. It adds a lot of energy to the record, and I think it just keeps our drums moving. Adds a lot of fun as well. Like, it's subtle, but it seems to work. It bounces around, basically. The open hat, it's sort of either side of the open hat. As the open hat runs straight through the middle, we run a delay on top of it, so that you can hear that nice little delay area. And a slight bit of reverb on a different reverb that we've used for this one. It's called an EOS. It kind of makes the room sound a little bit hollow, but it seems to work on this particular hi-hat.
These are like, this is the standard setup that we have on our hats, so we all pretty much always use the EOS as standard, and if we don't like it, we'll remove it and add another plugin. So all our presets are already available here. So you see, like with other vocalists we've worked with, or our hats, our kicks, our samples, SFX, snap and clap. So it's easy to get to.
So on the actual it is actually a closed hat mixed with a shaker, and we put the swing naturally came from the actual stereo delay. It wasn't programmed in like we do with our other stuff. Yeah, it's a lot tighter than some of the other drums, but it kind of stays around for a lot longer than the other hat as well. That's about it, really. So there's a crash that runs throughout the record. We actually bounced down the crash, reversed it, so it has like a sweeping reverse into the actual part where it climaxes and hits. It's a really strong sound already, and we seem to use it in every single production, just for like impact when a track drops or when a track moves on to the next section, and you want obviously the listener to know that there's a change coming up. Yeah, it's very limited. It's got a stereo delay on again, and the bottom end has been taken fully out. Like, the bottom end's been taken fully out, just so you hear the crash and a lot more top end. So this is it. The delay's just put on there to help it stay around for a bit longer, but obviously not too long, so it gets in the way of all the other drums.
So once we've finished our drums, we move into our basses. So we'll play a loop so you can hear those. So load. So there's 4 basses going on there, and a top as well. So if we go through them one by one. So the lead is this, which is a Moog, various processors on. Again, I don't know if you can see it, but we have our presets on our processors, and then we adjust from there.
Yeah, so the Logic compressor is actually what's doing the side chaining. It's giving it that It's giving a kick the space to move, and then obviously for the bass to come in, we use the 1973 equalizer again, just add a bit more middle and top end on it, and we use the leveling amplifier just to add a bit more warmth and punch the actual bass through the record.
One of the main key features in this track are the wobble basses, kind of inspired by UK garage and speed garage, which is why they sit alongside the garage-esque drums quite well. Yeah.
So there's 3 separate channels. They're all the same bass preset. Again, another preset that we've manipulated and tweaked to make it sound the way it does. The only thing that's different on each bass channel is the rate of the wobble. So we've got a slower rate at the start, and then it moves into a quicker one, and then an extra fast rate at the end. So that's why you get the different changes throughout the record. Slower one, and then a faster one. The processing is very similar to the one we have on a Moog. Again, we use the leveling amp. We use the transient shaper for snap again, and we've pushed up the mids and the high frequencies just so you can actually have a sound in the bass. It's not just a rumbling sub, it's what kind of driving a record at the same time. Again, it's the Logic compressor is sidechain against the kick.
Normally with sidechain we run it against all our basses and also all our string work, just to create space in the track. Sometimes we sidechain the string quite hard because we like quite a harsh, fast movement.
So we actually use the transient shaper on this one, so that basically when the Moog bass plays and these actual wobble basses come in, we need them to cut off at a particular time, so they need to be very sharp so that the extra Moog bass can come in and do the job that it's doing.
For it. So we run that transient on all 3 wobbles. So on top of all of these, we use an M1 top, a Vibe, which is a preset within the M1. We use it on quite a lot of our records. We're quite big fans of the M1. Like, you'll hear it on most of our records. We're either using a Vibe or a bell top or a typical organ, and this is what it sounds like. So it's actually a Vibe and
a
muted guitar. Sorry, I haven't got my glass on today.
Yeah, so basically that runs on top of these Moog bass, and when it stops, that's when the wobble basses kick in and do their job throughout the record.
It gives it more of a percussive feel on top, not so much driving the record, but gives it a more friendly factor. If you take that off, it feels a lot darker in mood, and this record specifically for us is not just a club record, but a crossover record to radio, so it actually is a really important part of the track, albeit quite small.
So with the Vibe on the M1 that we've used, we decided to take off the actual the preset effects that are already on and put on our own, because we prefer the sound of our own ones at this time.
Gives us more control.
Yeah, it gives us a lot more control as well, and we get to manipulate it to how we want it to be. The velocity of the keys had to be hit really hard because the M1 generally has quite a soft sound to it, so they're really high up in the mix. We added our own reverb again, the EOS by Audio Damage. It just adds a really nice space to it. Yeah, the reverb seems to... It's not overbearing, it doesn't take over the mix, it just seems to float around nicely in the background and add a bit of sweetness to the bass lines that we're using.
Sorry, that's all we've got time for. If you want to see the rest of this video, grab the new copy of Computer Music.
Download over 30 exclusive plugins. Get hundreds of pro-quality samples and power up your production skills with in-depth tutorials. We break it down for you step by step, and you'll see exactly how it's done in expert video guides and producer masterclass sessions with pro producers. Get all this and more with Computer Music Magazine every month on iPad and iPhone, PC and Mac, Android, and in print.